Mehdi Hasan released a monologue going off on Trump and debunking this narrative that he's anti-war, something that we also push back a lot on my channel. And I think that Mehdi does a great job summing up all the evidence that he is in fact not anti-war. So I thought I would pull a few of these clips and we could further walk through this lie that Trump is for world peace.
In his first year in office, he picked a fight with nuclear-armed North Korea. He called Kim Jong-un Little Rocket Man, called him short and fat, and threatened him with fire and fury. Trump's own Homeland Security officials were so shit-scared that he'd start a major war with North Korea that they had multiple meetings to prepare for a nuclear attack, a North Korean nuclear strike on American soil. In his last year in office, Trump illegally assassinated Iran's top general, Qasem Soleimani, via a drone strike. And the only reason we didn't have a full-on war with Iran is because the Iranians chose to show restraint and not respond in kind. Had Iran, say, assassinated General Mark Milley, America's top general at that time, we would have been instantly in World War III, as a result of Trump's actions. Let's be clear about that. In fact, Milley says Trump wanted to attack Iran after he lost the 2020 election. Trump also reportedly wanted to attack Venezuela. And now for his second term, he's considering airstrikes on Mexican soil. How's that for a new war? Not far away in the Middle East, but on our own southern border.
Trump, who said he would normalize relations with North Korea, spent the first couple years in office only boiling our tensions over the top by insulting their leader, causing them to ramp up their artillery in case of wanting to attack and their kind of military procedures, and bringing us further from ever being able to quell that hostility. And to be clear about General Soleimani, who Trump attacked against his advisor's advice, by the way, Mehdi is just saying that Iran didn't respond equally. However, they did launch retaliatory strikes at a much smaller level than Trump did, but still killed 3 U.S. troops and critically injured over 36, all because of Trump going against his advisors, so directly at his own action. And thank God for the cabinet and those around Trump and the fact that the president can't solely send us into war on his own discretion, because if he did have that kind of sole power, we would have invaded both Iran and Venezuela, something he heavily pushed for and is now pushing for an invasion into Mexico. So that kind of destroys the world peace narrative.
Obama famously didn't bomb the Assad government in Syria, but Trump did. In 2017 and again in 2018. Obama didn't drop the single biggest bomb on Afghanistan, the mother of all bombs, the Moab, but Trump did. In fact, the number of Afghan civilians killed by airstrikes on Trump's watch went up 330%. And as writer Ben Krause points out, quote, there were more civilian deaths from airstrikes in Somalia under Trump than under Bush and Obama combined. Trump also oversaw a 200% increase in airstrike deaths in Iraq and Syria. Donald Trump did more drone strikes in his first 2 years in office than Barack Obama carried out over 8 years in office. In fact, Trump didn't just do more drone strikes, he loosened all restrictions on drone strikes, making it even easier to kill innocent civilians. And it was Joe Biden, for all his sins on Gaza, who came along and almost ended the drone war without much fanfare and without much credit.
And this is one of the points I push most heavily on my channel. Trump was a maniac when it came to drone strikes, and he didn't care if it was civilians he was killing or fighters. He didn't have any discretion between the two. He dropped the largest bomb in history in Afghanistan, upped attacks in Iraq and Syria. Remember how we got into those places in the first place, Republican lies to fill their bloodthirst, and Trump was living up to that pretty well. He did more drone strikes on countries in 2 years than Obama did in 8. And Obama was considered a hawk for how many drone strikes he carried out. But for some reason, Trump gets absolved of this, right? Lowering restrictions on needing to report on the drone strikes as well, so he could carry out strikes very well, killing civilians, children, women, whatever it may be, and not even have to tell us, right? The truth is that Trump expanded and exacerbated every conflict he was handed. It's not like he was for world peace. We just got lucky that a war didn't start, or we would likely find ourselves in World War III right now.
Well, at least Trump didn't do a genocide like Biden did in Gaza. Yes, he did. Yes, he did. In Yemen. How have we just forgotten the Yemen genocide, with tens of thousands of deaths, thousands of kids killed, and a man-made famine? It started on Obama's watch, yes, but in 2018, it was President Trump who oversaw the Yemen war's deadliest and most violent year up until that point. It was Trump who was in charge when a US-made bomb was dropped on a school bus full of Yemeni kids. And it was Trump, like Biden with Israel, who bypassed Congress to get weapons and bombs to his pal MBS in Saudi Arabia, which were then used to kill even more innocent Yemenis en masse. So when you say Trump didn't do a genocide, didn't mass kill Muslims, you're erasing the people of Yemen, and you should really be ashamed of yourself. To be clear, Trump did try and start new wars, expanded old wars, increased drone strikes, and helped do a genocide in the Middle East. He also supported the invasion of Iraq, wanted America to steal Iraq's oil, and pardoned and praised American soldiers convicted of war crimes in Iraq.
And let's be very candid about Trump's part in the Yemeni genocide. Trump directly vetoed attempts to withdraw forces and money that were directly enabling these actions to happen. So he purposefully exacerbated it, as he also oversaw its deadliest years. It's not like it's just happenstance that this came to be under him and, oh, there's nothing we can really do. He had a direct part to play in it. And he has a history of pardoning war criminals, was a hawk on Iraq, wanted to steal their oil, something that definitely would have spilled over into larger conflict. So as I always say, as I just said, we're lucky that Trump didn't oversee any wars. It had little to nothing to do with his own actions. And actually, the contrary is true. If he got his way, we would have invaded multiple countries while carrying out the highest years of drone strikes we've ever seen and overseeing a genocide. That's not very non-confrontational. That's not very world peace, if you ask me. That's not the vibes it's giving. But for some reason, the right, especially, and some on the left too, like the Jimmy Dore left, wants you to believe that Trump can end these conflicts. He can end the Ukraine situation or the Gazan genocide. It's silly. And remember that we showcased all of this without even explaining Trump's release of Taliban terrorists and negotiations directly with a terrorist group while leaving out negotiations with the country's government that directly led to 13 people dying during the Biden withdrawal from Afghanistan, something that we could have done that was always going to be messy, but we could have done on a much more secure level if it wasn't for Trump negotiating with terrorists. I mean, every foreign conflict he touches turns to death and destruction.